Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, we have Adam Sabloff. He is the CEO of Virtual Health. We're going to take a look at a really hot space in capital markets right now, FinTech within healthcare. Thank you so much for joining us, Adam. And that's really been quite the buzz this year within healthcare is how FinTech is starting to emerge.
Yeah, no, I think that more so is the transition that we're seeing in the healthcare reimbursement models. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a lot more move to risk-bearing organizations where organizations are sharing risk amongst each other. And as a result, it becomes more about healthcare being more proactive because the incentives are aligned. And being more proactive allows us to keep people out of the hospital, keep people healthier, and improve outcomes.
Where does Virtual Health fit in the ecosystem?
We're basically a modern-day care management system. What we do is we allow organizations, one of those organizations that probably a lot of people don't know exist, but we help the health plans manage large populations of individuals, particularly in the Medicaid and Medicare world, also with home care. Sometimes the underprivileged, underserved, and the elderly. It allows organizations to manage populations of the tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, or even millions, and within those populations use data to basically find your high-risk populations and then dedicate resources, financial resources, to be proactive.
Are you starting to see improvement and efficiency?
I think it's unbelievable what's happened in healthcare. I mean, I think the transition to value-based care, which really started to rise with the ACA, we're seeing a lot of that with the managed Medicaid markets, especially in Medicare Advantage. They're showing a lot of positive results. We're seeing a lot of people who are able to stay at home longer on the elderly side, which I think is extremely important. And I think one of the biggest things that we're able to do now is really focus on those social determinants of health, the things beyond clinical, talking about things that, basically economic and behavioral issues as well.
That's refreshing to hear because it is not all that positive what we hear in the media and that there could be changes to ACA. And where are some of the challenges? What are you concerned about?
I honestly think that value-based care is really here to stay. I think it's one of those things that there's a lot of big talking points. The ACA itself, has a lot of complex components to it. But I think ultimately what we're really looking at is putting healthcare on a budget and basically saying, look, this is what you have to work with, and with that you have to be able to show better results. You have to be able to prevent hospitalizations. Hospitalizations are really what drive the cost in our healthcare system. So if you can really get to someone earlier, before someone who's diabetic becomes,
right,
or congestive heart failure, before they have a heart attack, or someone who might be exposed to congestive heart failure, COPD. If you have some of those types of issues and you're able to deal with them earlier and maintain and help change behavior, you can keep a lot of individuals out of the hospital and out of the doctor's office.
Right, because we hear a lot that healthcare costs are so high and the pharmaceutical companies are making drugs so expensive, and that may be the case, but there is some personal accountability that needs to be involved as well. And if you can treat yourself and use preventative medicine, in the long run, it's much less expensive.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem here is changing behavior.
Right.
Because people are very reactive in their healthcare, and everyone is always, always says, well, I wish I did this. I wish I went to the gym longer, more often. The problem is that you could manage the data, you can manage the populations, you could do all the outreach and send all the home care you want, but if you can't actually get a person to look after themselves, if you can't get them to get up and go to the doctor, or if you can't get them to take their meds, which is actually a big problem too, medication compliance, then you're going to have issues. So changing behavior and educating populations, educating individuals, and really, being more thoughtful. I think you're seeing more of that with like the CVS Aetna type stuff,
yes,
where you're seeing more community care resources. You're seeing more collaboration among community providers and payers. All those organizations kind of working together to create an ecosystem of care around the individual. I think it's creating a much more you get the 360-degree view, and you have a much more efficient healthcare system overall.
All right, Adam, thank you so much for the insight.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Jill.